Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies? I'm out of here. I like running better. Welcome back, YouTube viewers, to another video. Alright, so a couple days ago, the Chaotix Casefiles wrapped up. And it was spectacular, to say the least. When this was announced, I was just thinking, wait, they're doing this? Really? Because a couple days before it was announced, they said, oh, they're doing a Sonic audio drama for the 35th anniversary. I was thinking, what could that be? It's not going to be a podcast. It's not going to be the people who make Sonic talking about the series. I'm thinking, so it's maybe going to be, I don't know, Sonic and Tails going on some adventure or something? No. It's a full storyline about the Chaotix. They run into so many characters throughout the Sonic universe. There's this whole genuinely well done, overarching mystery and everything. It's got an original soundtrack. It's just, the amount of production values put into this thing is crazy. And it was almost perfect. Chaotix Casefiles was great. Listening to this week to week was just such a treat. And as someone who listens to a lot of old-time radio, you really need to listen to Jack Benny, look it up on YouTube, you won't regret it. This was actually pretty authentic. So I guess time to give my thoughts on the Chaotix Casefiles, what I liked, the few things I didn't like, episode by episode, what I think it means for the future of the series, and all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's dive on in. Before we do that, check out my Letterboxd and Serialized, link in the description, and like and subscribe, please. Episodes 1, 0, and 1. Okay, I really don't like it when shows do episode 0 or whatever. I understand that it was 8 minutes as opposed to 22, but I kind of wish they just combined episodes 0 and 1 into one episode. But anyway, so right off the bat, I was hooked from this show. I mean, you got Vector doing this funny old noir-style detective voice, where his voice sounds less comedic and more serious. But I love that the whole thing is he's actually just regularly narrating the whole show. And I was just really had a lot of fun with this right off the bat, and that's just because, oh, it's cool something like this even exists, but we're already getting so much out of the Chaotix as characters, and the fans love them, but the Chaotix really don't appear that much. I mean, I'd say their best appearance is Archie, but in Reboot, they're pretty different from how they are usually, and as good as they were in Reboot, it's not like they appeared that often. So, and they sure don't do that much in the game, so getting to just hear little bits about their personality, like the fact that SBO is lactose intolerant, which isn't even a part of his personality, but it's just funny to know stuff like that. But basically the whole status quo for the most part of the series is that the Chaotix as well as Sonic have been trapped by Eggman, and their Vector is just sharing the whole story of how they got to that point, and we get to hear all these episodes. So, the first episode is the Chaotix are tasked by Professor Tori, that was really interesting, with finding some mysterious astroscopic lenses which have been stolen from a museum. Now, right off the bat, this is interesting because I remember back in 2022 when people were asking, who was this character? Who's this mysterious purple-haired girl? And Ian Flynn said he knew something, but he couldn't tell us what. And then we got no word on her again until 2024, when she appeared in the background of the third movie, which was 2 years later. And then just randomly, early last year, we got a Tails tube where she appeared. She spoke to Tails, with the voice and everything, and now she's back here. I really have to wonder what the heck they are building up for her, which goes into my first criticism. I'm really worried that this series isn't going to be so self-contained, because there's no doubt Professor Tori is going to play some role in the games at some point, but telling people, hey, go listen to the audio drama to find out who this character is stupid. Because most people only ever play the games. And there are plenty of hardcore Sonic fans who, I mean, maybe not that many, but there are plenty of big Sonic fans that aren't going to listen to this. So, expecting them to have to listen to some audio drama on YouTube to understand things for the games is really stupid, because stuff like this is meant to be supplemental. It's meant to be something for the extra hardcore fan, It shouldn't be required reading, but oh boy, I'll talk about that more later. Anyway, so the Chaotix go on their adventure, and they think the thief is Knuckles. And Knuckles barely does anything. Compared to the other guest stars throughout the show who get a lot of lines, Knuckles is kind of just there, but, it's still cool to see him. I hear him. Although I will say that Dave B. Mitchell probably gave his worst performance as Knuckles here, well, aside from Team Sonic Racing. This and that game are the only performances for Knuckles I think he's done that are genuinely not good, which is a shame because the rest of the voice acting in this series is superb. It's really good. I'll talk about that more later. I will say though, it's cool to see the Chaotix talk Knuckles and all that. I think it was really stupid how they're suddenly trying to make Knuckles Chaotix canon because, how does that work? The Chaotix were introduced in Heroes. Takashi Iizuka said that, yeah, Knuckles Chaotix isn't really canon because, none of us even made that. We're rebooting their characters, and to be fair, that makes complete sense because you go from the Chaotix being Knuckles, like he's leading them. You've got Vector, Espio, and Charmy, but also Mighty, and they're not detectives. They're a group of friends who fights bad guys. I guess it's not really clear what they are. So when they show up in Heroes, two of them are gone, and they're completely different, changing to a failing detective agency. It gives you the idea that these are new characters. They've got nothing to do with the old ones outside their names and designs, and even then their designs are still pretty different. That was the first time they met with Sonic and cast. That's it. But now all of a sudden, trying to convince me that Knuckles Chaotix is canon just doesn't make sense. Like, what do you mean you fought Metal Sonic Kai or whatever? And also, the way it's portrayed where Vector says, hey, remember when we went to such and such place and fought Metal Sonic Kai and all this stuff happened? It's very, very weird and kind of stilted in a way. But, as much as I don't like that, I still did enjoy this episode. It was just fun to hear the Chaotix bounce off each other. And I love the theme song they did for this. I'm a bit disappointed they never once played Team Chaotix from Sonic Heroes, which it was also never used in Crossworld, which is kind of sad, because that was, the Chaotix theme song, but it feels like Sega's just trying to get rid of it. Still, though, I enjoyed this episode. It was funny. I like getting them interact with Knuckles. It sets up the mystery nicely. Episode 2 is great. So, the Babylon Rogues just appear. I get the feeling they were only in this because of Sonic Racing Crossworld releasing only about 6 months ago. 5 months ago when this came out. So they wanted to do some cross-promotion, but it was really fun getting to hear the Babylon Rogues interact with the Chaotix. Sure, they also did it in Sonic Racing Crossworlds, but it's nice to get it here, Like, you have Vector has to race them, and he loses, obviously. Then we also get the introduction of this whole subplot involving Rouge and Espio. How he's basically... Rouge is portrayed like she's a femme fatale from one of those old 40s noir films, which... Those are some really good movies, by the way. Totally watch Double Indemnity if you haven't seen it. So she's basically portrays one of those characters where she got that really nice, deep voice, and she's just trying to convince Espio to run away with her. And he just doesn't understand it at all. He's saying, "What? I can't betray my team." I know maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I feel like this is almost meant to be a kind of joke of some old movie where this woman says to, the main character, "Come on, forget your girlfriend and run away with me." And he says, "No, I can't betray her." Except in this case, it's Espio saying, "I can't leave my friends for you." It's pretty funny. Also, she does actually drop some lore, I guess. We learn a bit more about what's going on with the whole astroscopic lenses thing, and it's just fun to see Espio and Rouge of all characters interact, because it does make sense when you think about it. Espio is basically added to Rouge's list of characters she has a good dynamic with, because with Knuckles you got the whole thing that they're both treasure hunters, they're both pretty tough, so they clash heads that way. With Shadow you got the whole they first appear in the same game. They have their whole story about being kind of loners that learn to open up to other people. And then with Espio you got the whole thing of they're both stealthy and not necessarily loners, but they kind of keep to themselves in some ways. So that's fun. And it's just cool to see these kinds of dynamics. That's what I really like about the show most of all, really. Just getting to hear all these characters interact with one another. I mean, the whole plot is, like I said before, is that Vector is essentially telling tall tales, even though it did happen. to Eggman and Sonic while he's sitting in a cage. And you have all these parts where Sonic interrupts and Eggman interrupts asking, wait, there's no way that happened, right? And at the end of every episode, you'll have something like, well, Eggman, I could continue if you got me some water. Also, just, again, voice acting, so good. But the episode did end with Vector saying, it's time to check in with our old friends, Tangle and Whisper. I am done with this. If you want to hear me talk about Tangle and Whisper, watch my last video, where I talked about IDW Sonic. I recommend you watch both my videos about IDW Sonic, but if you want to hear a better version of my thoughts on Tangle and Whisper, watch the second part. In short, like I mentioned before about the whole you have to listen to an audio drama to understand it, that's one thing, because if they suddenly start appearing in the mainline games, that'd be annoying. But also, my problem is that, as I said, the whole thing of this is meant to be supplemental material, the same goes for IDW. That is meant to, side comics like any Transformers comic, Mega Man comic, whatever, they're always meant to be supplemental. They are just something on the side, something for hardcore fans, you know? Something that stands out on its own, it's like it's its own thing. Like the way the Sonic movies are. These are the movies. But when you try to start blending these things together, it's weird, because now all of a sudden you're telling me that, oh, Vector's saying, yeah, good old friends, Tangle and Whisper. Which just doesn't make sense, because what do you mean Tangle and Whisper just suddenly canon to the games and apparently have always been important, and they've just always been friends with the Chaotix? Which is just so out of nowhere and weird, because it'd be one thing if they took Tangle and Whisper and they said, okay, they first appeared in the comics, but now we're introducing them to the games, we're giving them new stories, new backstories, and that, well, I still wouldn't like them to appear. That would make sense from a continuity perspective. But no, they're saying, no, these guys from the supplemental side comic for the obsessive fans, they're suddenly super important, and here they are in this thing. And they're also in Crossworld now, and maybe they'll be in the mainline games. It's just too much. Of course, though, I'm getting ranty again, but it's just kind of hard for me not to when the subject is Tangle and Whisper. Okay. Anyway, though, okay, the episode itself, though. It was good. I liked it. Some more stuff about the mystery with the astroscopic lenses got expanded on. We got some more stuff with Charmy and Vector. It's a fun dynamic. I don't really have much to say about this episode, though, because I feel like the whole thing of it wasn't that, oh, we're getting more of the story. It's that, look, Tangle and Whisper are here now. And as I said in my last video, Tangle reminds me of someone who actually bullied me, and still does bully me whenever I see that person occasionally. So, giving a voice to someone who reminds me of someone who bullied me, and having that voice actually sound like that person, just makes it even worse, because this is supposed to be escapism. When I'm escaping into a story, I don't want to be reminded of someone who treated me like garbage. Okay? I understand this is something that would only affect me and no one else as far as I know, but it is something that affects me, and it's something that I need to say. Episode 4. I loved this episode. We get the return of Commander Abraham Tower. Like I said in my video on Dark Beginnings back when that came out, we're never going to get much from Archie. Sega's never going to acknowledge it, but getting the Gun Commander to appear, they didn't give him his movie name, they didn't give him a new name, they gave him his Archie Comics name, and it's just regularly being used now. I love that so much. After getting a slap in the face with Tangle and Whisper, I get this. It's such a treat. Okay, but all that aside, I really do like the character of Commander Tower. He was a pretty big joke in Shadow the Hedgehog back in 2005, but I really like the way he's being handled here. In the movies, yes, I know he's technically a different character, but in the movies he's kind of just there for exposition, not too interesting, but here I like how he's portrayed as a sort of no-nonsense military commander who has to put up with all this stuff. That's kind of how he was portrayed in Archie too, although they didn't get to do too much with him, but it's still cool he's here. I mean, I love this thumbnail art they did of Vector and Tower. And I really like Roger Craig Smith's performance as him. It just really captures that whole no-nonsense, tough military commander. We also find out that Professor Tori is kind of working with guns, sort of? Which is interesting. Because I thought she was just working for the museum, but no. She also wants to get... Gunn also is interested in the astroscopic lenses, maybe? Which is why Tori is working with them. It's really interesting. I found this whole thing to be quite engaging. Because it really makes me wonder, okay, so what are they doing with Tori? At first, I thought she was maybe just like some archaeologist lady who's interested in history, obviously. But now she's working with Gunn, and it's not like Gunn are villains or anything. I mean, they used to be, but not anymore. But still. Also, I just have to say that the whole thing about Gunn is never really resolved in this series. There might be a season 2, because the last episode said season finale, and apparently this whole podcast has done super well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a second season, but I am really interested to see where everything with Gunn goes. Episode 5. This was a fun one. So, I don't think I've ever mentioned Cream and Gemerald before. So, this gives me a chance to actually talk about him for once. So, I like Gemerald. I like his story in Advance 3 for as little as it is. I mean, it is a continuation of Sonic Battle, which I have to give him credit for. I like his design, but outside of Advance 3, he never appeared again until being in one issue of Archie where he appeared during the World Unite crossover, and then he's actually had a pretty substantial role in IDW. And as you guys know, I do not like IDW. And I also criticized a story of his in one of his starring stories in my first IDW video. But at the end of the day, I still do like the character of Gemerald. He's good. And giving him a voice finally is cool. Same with Vanilla, who finally has a voice. I mean, I guess she also has one in Sonic X, but that's whatever. And, it's nice that she's here, I guess. I mean, I guess it shouldn't have been too surprising considering how Vector has a crush on Vanilla, which always made me wonder, wait, so how old is Vector supposed to be? I'm assuming he's in his 20s, but how old is Vanilla? In her 30s? Whatever, don't think about the ages of Sonic characters, that's a whole mess. So the episode's pretty simple. The Chaotix copter crashes and near where Cream and Vanilla live, and they get to talk to them and stuff, and it's fun. It's a fun episode. Although I have to say, while listening to this show, this is probably the episode I was the least engaged with. Because the other ones, like the first episode is the first episode. Second episode's got the Babylon Rogues. Third, for better or for worse, it's got Tangle and Whisper. Fourth, it's got Commander Tower, etc., etc. But this was just, like, it's cool to see these characters, but they're not really characters I care about too much, and not much happened in the story, so I still liked it. It was good, but not too much for me to say about it, honestly. Episode 6. I just want to say that I have the top comment on this video. I'm not kidding, look it up. The comment that says, the quote, she's Eggman's AI daughter. Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. If you see that comment, that's the top comment. I wrote it. Pretty proud of that. Anyway, so, I like this episode. I've said before how I don't like Sage, and I still don't, but it's more so I don't really like the idea of Sage, of what she represents, of Eggman. Oh, he actually could be nice and has a daughter now that he actually cares about. No, that's stupid. Yes, I'm well aware that in Archie he had children, but there he viewed them more as tools than actual people he cared about, because he mourned M for 2 panels, and he was very happy to kill Adam, and he eventually says, so much for family, what a waste of time. So having Eggman all of a sudden be this whole, no, me, the evil dictator who conquered the world and did all this crazy stuff, I actually care about Sage, even though the 6 scenes we share in Frontiers, 4 of them are me yelling at her. Whatever. The point is, even if I don't like everything surrounding Sage, Sage as a character is fine. And she's not even in this episode that much. This is just an interesting episode, though, because we finally find out how the Chaotix ended up getting captured by Eggman. And it was fun to see them interact with Sonic, with Eggman, all that stuff. It was cool. I liked it. But also, of course, at the end of the episode, or beginning of the next one, I think, we finally find out who the guy who stole the whole astroscopic lenses were. It is none other than Infinite. The Case of the Red Spectre, baby. This is something I could never have expected. I thought the thief was going to be an original character. Or, God forbid, mimic. And yes, I did just say that. Maybe I shouldn't have said God forbid. But Infinite, from Sonic Forces, he is the lens thief, and it's kinda awesome. So, Infinite is a joke of a character. We all meme on him, and he deserves it. I am not weak, and all that stuff. He had a really cool design and cool powers and a lot of potential, but he ended up being a pathetically ineffective villain, and all he did was just stand around, spout edgy stuff, and do basically nothing. He thinks he killed Sonic, takes him to prison, Sonic escapes, and then he has to kill him again. Instead of taking him back to prison or whatever, making sure he dies and Sonic just beats him. No, he just says to Sonic, nah, I'm just gonna leave you here, goodbye. And then his death scene is just so unceremonious and lame. A complete waste of a potentially great character. Attached to and just one of the many problems of an already terrible game. But this show completely redeemed him for me. He's not amazing or anything, but he is just so much better than he was in Forces. For one, the series is no longer leading it, never once mentions the whole stupid Shadow backstory. Like, we're kind of ditching him being a Mephiles clone, because I've always kind of seen him as derivative of Mephiles, with the whole, oh, he's mad that Shadow defeated him, and then he's come back years later stronger, and he's going to get his revenge on him. It's not as interesting as Mephiles, and it's not even that well fleshed out. Here, it just fully focuses on how Infinite is insane, and he wants power, and he wants revenge on everyone for having defeated him. Also, they do make a good point as to how he technically could have survived, because no body was found, although I always think that when he's writhing and when he's screaming, no, and he disappears, that he totally died, but whatever. And all the characters show up to fight him, and the reason he's getting the astroscopic lenses was so that he could get his powers back. So that's a cool way to bring him back. Cool use of why he'd be here. Just really well done. He's also got a new voice actor, which I'll talk about later. So, there isn't much to this episode aside from, oh my gosh, Infinite's back, and that enough is already pretty cool. Final episode, The Case of the Red Spectre Part 2. Sick thumbnail, by the way. This episode's basically just a conclusion of the Chaotix, and everyone fights against Infinite, and they beat him. And he disappears, although he does say that, I'll be back when you least expect it or something, which, you know, that was something. I assume that this series would be mostly self-contained, and that Infinite would come back just for this series and nothing else. And now I'm starting to wonder, he's thinking this. Either A, he's going to come back in a mainline game, which I don't like, because like I said before, having to listen to an audio drama to understand the plot of a video game is stupid. At least for Frontiers and Shadow Generations, you only need to watch 5 to 15 minutes of content. And those shorts were at least included on the PS5 copies of those games. They should have been on all copies of the games, but whatever. But here, expecting everyone to listen to an 8-episode audio drama, technically 9 episodes, it's dumb. But either he's going to return in the next mainline game, which I'm still don't think that's going to happen. He might be in a spin-off or something, I don't know. But he's either going to return there or in a second season. Might be a second season, honestly. So he gets defeated. Everyone goes their separate ways. SBO totally fumbles the ball with Rouge, which, I get Rouge's personality and all, but, I'm more of a Nuxuge guy myself, honestly. Okay, but, all jokes aside, that wasn't really a joke, though, the Chaotix think they're finally gonna get a reward, and all they get is their copter fix, which is cool, but they don't get any money, so they still can't really afford groceries, as Reboot Vector would say. And that's the end of the Chaotix Casefiles. The Chaotix go on a big crazy adventure, they do all this stuff, meet all these characters, they get a great theme song, and it was really cool. Now, I gotta give a big shout out to the voice cast, because I think, by far, this had the second best voice acting of any Sonic project. Not quite as good as, the voice acting in Sonic Boom, the TV show, a little bit better than Saturday M, though. So, I love this cast for the most part. Keith Silverstein as Vector, perfect. I like Mark Biaggi from Back in Heroes, James Carter Cathcart, may he rest in peace, from Sonic X and Shadow the Hedgehog. He was good. But Keith Silverstein just is Vector to me. The way he does his whole over-the-top comedic voice, Vector the Crocodile, that voice is just so good fitting for Vector as a character. And I just love the way he's also able to play as more of that smooth, noir kind of tone for Vector. That's just really good stuff. Matthew Mercer is by far my favorite SBO. I liked his original voice from Heroes, but I don't know, something about his performance there that was Bill Corkery. He always just felt like he wasn't really trying that much. Dave Willis from Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic X and Rivals 2, he was good, but his voice was just a bit too deep for me. And then we had Troy Baker, who just, Matthew Mercer, is basically a better Troy Baker. He sounds youthful, but he also sounds serious and mature. And he's able, what I really like with the whole dynamic with Rouge, we kind of get this in Crossworlds too, where he interacts with other characters. We get to see that SBO can be more than just the silent, cool ninja guy. He can actually feel kind of stressed sometimes, kind of vulnerable, angry at other people. And Matthew Mercer just played all that kind of personality to perfection. Colleen O'Shaughnessy is Charmy and Tails. Great as Tails for when Tails showed up. Great as Charmy. Roger Craig Smith, the GOAT. He's my favorite Sonic. I'm never going to take that back. He did a wonderful job here. It really makes me wish he'd get to do this, the voice he did here more often, because I'm so annoyed the next mainline game is going to stick to the Frontiers voice, because I didn't like that voice. Roger's finally got good script. Let him match a good performance with a good script instead of only getting one or the other. In all fairness, Frontiers didn't have that good a script, but whatever. Roger also voiced, who was it? He voiced someone else in this show. Why can't I remember? Dang. Whatever. So, Mike Pollock as Eggman, the iconic. I know these days people are a lot more split on Mike Pollock because of his politics. They say he's a huge jerk or whatever. Personally, I think people are overreacting to him being a big jerk, but I more so care about, did he do a good job acting? And I think this was his best performance since Team Sonic Racing. He didn't really sound that much like Eggman in Frontiers. It didn't really sound like he was putting that much effort into it in Dream Team and Crossworlds. He was okay in the Generations rewrite, but here, I did a really good job. He's not quite matching the same kind of energy he used to, but I'm not going to blame that. I'm going to blame that less on him and more so on the fact that, he's 61 now. He has been playing, he's in the English cast longer than anyone else, and it just makes sense that he's just not going to sound the same as he used to. I think that's fine. Karen Strassman voiced Rouge. This is by far her best performance as Rouge. I've always been a bit mixed on her performance, because I thought she sounded decent back in Free Riders, and she was okay in Sonic Generations and Forces. I guess Team Sonic Racing, but she was never great. And then you get to Shadow Generations and Crossworlds, where she was just awful, which is sad considering how good the acting was in those games. And you look at Dark Beginning, she did do a good job there. And here, she similarly did a really good job. This is her best Rouge by far. And I'm happy with the voice we have for her now. Last but not least, though, there's Alejandro Saab, who voices Infinite and General. This casting completely caught me off guard, because I was thinking they were going to recast Infinite, and they did, but I was shocked when I found out it was this guy. You might be thinking, okay, who's Alejandro Saab? One, he has a massive list of credits considering how young he is, but if you've ever seen the popular fan series Christmas with Sonic, he voiced Shadow and Knuckles in that. For over a decade, he played Shadow and Knuckles in fan stuff, and now he's getting to play Infinite and General in an official series. That's just really cool for him. Also, he took over as the voice of Macaque in Monkey Kid, so, another actor you can add to the list of, he was in Sonic, he was in Dragon Ball, and he was in Monkey Kid. In conclusion, the Chaotix Casefiles was great. it was a really unique experience, something this series has never really tapped into before, but I really enjoyed it for what it was, and I look forward to getting more of this. I do have issues with it, like I mentioned. Other things I could talk about, like how good the music was. Love the theme song, love the remixes. Sega, please release the soundtrack. Also, well, I have no hate toward the voice director of the games, because he also Jack Fleischer, because he also directed the Sonic Boom TV show. He apparently didn't do the voice directing for this series. It's the one thing to feature the 2010s cast that he didn't direct. So I'm just saying, maybe it'd be nice if the guy who directed this got to direct the series more often. But anyway, that's all for today. And see y'all next time. Just kidding. Time to talk about Sonic Movie 4, baby. Okay. Imagine, man, the way this title drop is just so bizarre. Day before the trailer for Spider-Man Brand New Day comes out. I wasn't loving it, but I thought, okay, it's cool, I'm hyped. Next day, wake up, turn on my computer. Wait, what the heck? Sonic Movie 4 title treatment? Because it was announced exactly a year before the movie comes out. For the movie 3's title treatment, it was 11 months. Now I'm thinking a full year? Man, they must have some confidence for this. So, I'm going to quickly talk about what I think of Sonic Movie 4 thus far, even though the movie's still a year away. So, I'm glad they're actually calling it Sonic 4, not calling it Sonic CD, which would make no sense and just confuse audiences, but it was a cool teaser. Still kind of like the movie 3 teaser more, but I have a few issues. The biggest issue is the stacked cast. You got Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, obviously. Amy and Metal Sonic are getting added, of course, we all knew that. Tom and Maddie are sticking around, okay. But we have some other issues, so out of nowhere it's revealed that Jim Carrey is coming back. I talked about this in my Sonic movie videos, but I cannot stand Jim Carrey for the life of me. I think he's incredibly obnoxious. And I've never really liked his portrayal of Eggman. I think he has a couple good lines. He has some good scenes as Gerald in the third movie. But the problem is that he never acts. He just does his crazy improv comedy routine. You never just get to see him play a legitimate villain. That's why the few scenes he played Gerald Robotnik seriously I really appreciate. Because when I was in the theater, I'm pretty sure I said out loud to myself, wow, Jim Carrey can act? Because I was just shocked he could deliver a real serious performance, not just his dumb improv. But the fact that he's back is just so annoying to me, because does that mean he's gonna come back to life or something? Or what about his whole actual sacrifice at the end of 3 where it was a good conclusion to his character arc? But here's the thing. He sounded a lot more serious, like he was actually trying to be menacing, which I appreciate. And 2, the concept art for the post-credit scene in Sonic Movie 3 was going to reveal that Sonic would travel to an alternate timeline where Eggman rules the worlds. So I'm thinking that's what's going to happen. So they aren't going to undo Movie 3's ending. What they are going to do is that they'll travel to an alternate timeline where Eggman rules the world with Metal Sonic and he's actually threatening. You know what? Cool. Sure, it is annoying that they're giving the spot of time traveler to Amy of all characters and taking it away from Silver, but I think Jeff Fowler did say he wants to include Silver at some point, so, maybe they'll do more time travel stuff, but whatever. Thing is, though, this movie is a serious stack cast, 'cause, okay, you got Eggman back, okay, whatever. But then you also got Agent Stone coming back. I never really liked him either. That just makes the cast more stacked. And you got Ben Kingsley and Nick Offerman joining. And who are they even going to play? People have theorized that Ben Kingsley will play Metal Sonic, which I hope so, because the last thing we need is yet another character. Nick Offerman might end up being the cat cameo, which would be fine, but you also got, okay, what are they going to do with Tom and Maddie? They're just going to be there, I guess. But most of all, Shadow is coming back. And I love movie Shadow. Keanu Reeves did a way better job than I thought he would. But this movie has so many characters and so much stuff to do. And you can't just plop Shadow in a story, unless it's Sonic Generations. When you have Shadow, you need to actually do something with him. You can't just be there. So my worry is that this movie is either going to spend all its attention on Amy Metal Sonic and Shadow will just be completely shafted, or Shadow may end up taking up all the time because he's Shadow, he's Keanu Reeves. which is why I really don't want him to be here. Of course, he might just end up having some really small role, because who knows, maybe he has the Chaos Emerald or something and they need to go to him to get the Chaos Emeralds, but I really thought they were just going to not include him, they just save him for his spin-off movie in late 2028. I still think that 2028 movie could be a Shadow movie, but does he really need to be here? Of course, Ben Kingsley, which, I hope he's Metal Sonic, because Metal Sonic really needs a voice, please. He and Nick Offerman might just end up being like when they announced a ton of new cast members for Sonic Movie 3, and it turned out they were just in 2 scenes of a fake TV show Eggman watches. Pretty inoffensive, didn't take up any time. Also, on the subject of Metal Sonic having a voice, because I really hope he has one, if you asked me what voice Metal Sonic should have, I would say David Sobolov in a heartbeat. Look it up on YouTube, there are a couple videos of the voice, of him voicing Metal Sonic. Like, people putting the voice for him. It's perfect. I mean, I actually met David Sobolov at a convention recently, and I asked him, okay, can you please do this Metal Sonic line? I mean, I didn't tell him it was Metal Sonic, but I said, please do this line. So he said the Archie line, "You are good. I am better. Superior." I really wish I had recorded that, because if I did, I could have uploaded to this channel. It would have been glorious. Anyway, though, I'm excited for Sonic Movie 3, and if they keep up with the quality they did for 4, okay, I'm excited for Movie 4. If they do what they did for 3, where they mostly ditch the stupid humor, they mostly ditch all the human stuff, they do a story focused on Sonic and his friends, they actually take it seriously, we can have something really good on our hands. That's all for now, though, and remember to stay way past cool.